Good morning, students. I want to take this time to introduce to you our interactive read aloud for the week. This book is called Nim and the War Effort, written by Millie Lee, pictures by Ying Suk Choi. This book is published by Squarefish Publishing. Now, you may look at the background if you want to just kind of take a quick look at the cover. Lettering here, this book may have something to do with China. I see some Chinese lettering there. I did read a few pages already. I tend to like to read this book along with you guys to have that same experience of reading a book for the first time. However, just based on the title and the name of the illustrator, there may be some Chinese words in this book. So I do want to apologize in advance. I may not necessarily be saying names or words appropriately, but I'm just going to do my best because that's all I really can do. But I am excited about this book, so let's get started. Again, Nim and the War Effort. Newspaper. Notice the word Nim is on there, which connects to Nim, which is in the title of the book. So we'll have to see what kind of connection is there. And if we also go back, this girl looks like she's also carrying a newspaper. Maybe some foreshadowing there. We'll see if that all makes sense as we continue to read. Again, a great skill that readers do. Before they even open up a book and start reading, they look for clues either in the title or in the cover. I'd love to see you guys start doing that as you become great readers as well. Page 1. Nim covered the big round table with newspapers and carefully smoothed them. Then she set out 9 pairs of chopsticks, 9 bowls, 9 plates, and 6 serving spoons. She looked across the room to see grandmother embroidering a small satin sliver. Excuse me, let me try that again. Some alliteration there. She looked across the room to see grandmother embroidering a small satin slipper and grandfather reading a Chinese newspaper. Grandfather, when you finish your newspaper, may I have it? Tomorrow is the last day of the paper drive. Grandfather nodded, continuing to read. Nim placed his shot glass and his bottle of Ning Ka Pai on the table at the place of honor. Grandfather, did I tell you about the policeman? Grandfather looked up from his newspaper. What policeman? Officer Kearney. He came to our class today to tell us about his work. He said that any time we needed help, we could call the police on the telephone. Grandfather, do you think you could come to school sometime to tell about your work at the bank? We'll see, said Grandfather. By and by. He started to read again, nodding absently from time to time as Nim chattered on about the policeman's visit. Nim's mother placed a large steaming bowl of soup in the middle of the table and called the family to dinner. Grandmother put down her embroidery and teetered on her small bound feet as Nim helped her to her seat next to Grandfather. When her grandparents were seated, Nim and her sisters and brother sat down. Nim asked everyone to be extra careful not to spill on the newspapers because she needed every piece for the paper drive. Mother spooned out the soup, giving the first bowls to Grandfather and Grandmother. Let me try that again. Mother spooned out the soup, giving the first bowls to Grandfather and Grandmother before serving the rest of the family. Then, as was done at every meal, Ed, the oldest child, invited everyone to eat. Sik fan, Grandfather. Sik fan, Grandmother. Sik fan, Mother. Nim and her sisters followed, in order of their birth, inviting their elders to eat rice in Cantonese. Cantonese is a specific Chinese dialect, kind of like Mandarin is also another Chinese dialect. Finally, Grandfather picked up his spoon and began to eat. The others quickly followed. Meal times were quiet times. Only the adults spoke. When dinner was over and the table was cleared, Nim had 8 more pieces of newspaper to add to her pile. The next morning, Nim dressed quickly. She brushed her thick, straight black hair and put on the gold watch Uncle George had given her. She decided to wear it for good luck, even though it was broken. Grandfather had punched another hole in the watch band, so it fit her perfectly now. In front of the open window in the hallway, Grandfather was performing Tai Chi, starting the last set of slow, deliberate movements. Not wanting to disturb him, Nim went quietly to a breakfast of hot steamed rice and an egg and oyster sauce. Grandfather came into the dining room just as she finished eating. "Good morning, Grandfather," Nim called cheerfully. "You're up early today," said Grandfather. He was already dressed in his crisp white shirt, knotted black tie, a 3-piece business suit, and polished black shoes. On the lapel of his coat was a small pin with 2 flags, the American flag and the Chinese flag. Many Chinese men began wearing the pin with 2 flags after the war with Japan started, so they would not be mistaken for the enemy. "Your Aunt Nell called last night," said Grandfather. "She's leaving some newspapers for you in front of her flat. They have your name on them and will be tied with red string." "Good," said Nim. "Every bit helps. What time is it, Grandfather?" "Exactly." Grandfather pulled out his pocket watch by its gold chain from his vest pocket. "It's 6:47 exactly." Nim whirled around the hands of her watch to set it. "That gives me just about an hour to collect papers before school starts." "An hour and 13 minutes, said Grandfather, "and don't be late for school." Nim smiled shyly at Grandfather. "May I collect a few more papers after school?" "The contest is over at 5 o'clock, and it's a tight race between Garland Stevenson and me. Our stacks are almost equal." Grandfather listened and nodded. Grandfather listened and nodded yes. "But you must be home no later than 3:30, so you can have your snack and get ready to go to Chinese school." Okay, I'm already starting to see a connection between the newspapers we saw in the cover and the newspapers that Nim is collecting right now. It was a little bit subtle, but I noticed that on the lapel, and you can kind of see it right here, I know it's hard to see, that there's a Chinese flag and an American flag on his lapel. He did not want to be mistaken for the enemy, which is Japan. I've got a quick connection there. Sometimes Americans aren't always liked when they travel abroad. And I learned about this in the mid-2000s when I went to Europe for the first time. I was traveling with some Canadians, and they didn't want to be mistaken for Americans, so they actually put Canadian flags and stickers on their backpacks so that people would not mistake them for Americans. I thought that was kind of odd. But anyway, that's my personal connection there. I hope you enjoyed the first few pages of our new read aloud. Please make sure you answer today's comprehension question or connection question, and I'll see you guys back here tomorrow.